Queensland National Senator Susan McDonald is the Shadow Resources Minister. She joins me now from Brisbane. Susan McDonald, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah.
Just before we get to liquid gold, just a question about politics first. According to reports today, the One Nation candidate in the Farrer by-election, David Farley, a former member of your party, the Nationals, approached the Labor Party seeking to run as a Labor candidate in 2022. Will the Nationals still direct preferences to a wannabe Labor MP?
Disappointing to discover that he had wanted to run for the Labor Party. In fact, as recently as the Aston by-election, I understand he was still giving donations to the Labor Party. Look, the question of preferences would be better directed to my leader, Matt Canavan, but I was actually shocked to hear that today.
But what do you feel? Do you feel like, you know, I know it's Matt Canavan's decision in the end, but what would you be telling Matt Canavan, yes or no, for preferences for a wannabe Labor man?
Oh, well, we've discovered that a vote for One Nation is a vote for Labor. That's not what I think the people of Farrer want or need. Certainly it's not what Australians need. So that will be a discussion that no doubt he is considering tonight.
I'm sure he is. Look forward to talking to him about that. Let's move on to energy and all things liquid gold. We heard earlier from Christiana Figueres, the UN climate negotiator. She says true energy independence for Australia comes from harnessing local renewable resources, not fossil fuels, that is both finite and whose prices are, of course, set overseas. It's a strong argument for sovereignty, isn't it?
Well, sovereignty is so incredibly important to a nation like Australia that has every energy resource required. Uranium has never been in such high demand. Coal once again reached another record demand last year. Gas, we've just seen 40% of the world's production knocked out. Australia is rich in all of these resources, and we should absolutely be developing them because gas is not just used for energy. Gas is used for fertiliser. The rocket ship that just came back from navigating the moon, powered by gas. The plastics used in hospitals, the gas used in food safety, food services. These are all important uses of gas. And to say that we can just shift to renewables ignores the fact that we are a hydrocarbon society. We have developed an incredible civilisation based on it. We are smart. We will manage the rest.
Now, I'm just going to go to some of the facts that she used. You said the highest use of coal in the world. She said last year, I think this has been recently reported by Ember, that the share of renewables in global power generation last year did in fact overtake coal for the first time. So her argument is coal is generally declining.
Well, we know that the requirement for energy around the world is increasing at the rate of knots, whether it be in electrification of everyday items, for AI, for data centres. We need more energy than ever before. Coal remains an important part of that mix, and I certainly won't be ringing our trading partners like Japan or South Korea and telling them that we think that they should be cutting down on their coal. They are using it effectively, efficiently. They use the most efficient power technology in the world. We're proud to supply the highest standard coal. And of course, it's not just for energy, it's for making steel. If things aren't made in a factory with steel, they're made in a factory made of steel. So it's an important element. Australia stands ready to power, energise the world and provide those important resources, and we should continue to do so.
Let me take you to the gas tax. Now, it does seem as though the government has cooled on the idea of higher taxes for gas exports, but I want to ask if you understand the argument being raised by a range of economists, bank chiefs, as well as Greens and Independents, that Australia does not get enough benefit from the sale of gas overseas.
Well, I have had the fortune or misfortune to spend 3 days listening to some of those arguments this week. I find myself in furious agreement with the Prime Minister that there has been a huge amount of misinformation spread during that campaign. Campaign run by people who previously spent all their time trying to stop fossil fuel projects. So I think we know what their agenda is. Australians are being told they don't get their fair share, that gas companies don't pay for the gas that they extract. This is all so absolutely untrue. We receive $400 billion in infrastructure investment into this country since 2010. that has gone to bakers and trucking companies and tyre businesses and construction firms right across this country. And it is because Australia, unlike Norway, unlike other countries, we don't take an equity stake in the risky project of accessing some of those resources.
But let me put one of the arguments being made, because there's a range of arguments around how increases to taxes on gas profits would work. One of them comes from Allegra Spender. She's proposing a progressive tax, modest rate at normal prices, higher taxes when prices spike. What's wrong with a tax that works like that on super profits, a windfall tax?
Well, we already have a tax like that. It's called the PRRT. It has been reviewed very frequently, and most recently in 2023, a time when the Greens did vote for those changes. It is a tax that allows companies to recoup the very expensive capital costs for investing in Australia. We have different geology to the other jurisdictions that have been named as a potential comparison. And for those reasons, we allow them to recoup their capital costs before they start paying a tax. The PRRT is a super profits tax. It is 40%. It is also based on trading on commodity prices. That tax will start to be paid as those companies move into production. Many of them have not yet reached production stage, and we'll start to see a return that justifies not just the PRRT on tax, but also we'll see an increase in corporate taxes. Norway only has 2/3 of the corporate tax that Australia does. We'll see corporate taxes, payroll taxes, PAYG taxes, and hundreds of thousands of Australians who are benefiting directly from an incredibly well-paid jobs.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that tax, because the last time we were in the middle of a fuel crisis after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, LNG receipts in Australia went up by $40 billion, almost double, whereas taxes increased by only $9 million from those resources company. That doesn't sound like a tax that's working to the benefit of Australians.
Well, again, I would just point you to the fact that we have reviewed this tax previously. In fact, the last time that it was reviewed, it was they had hearings for over a month. We've just had hearings for 3 days. This is complex tax, but Australians do receive their fair share. They receive it in the capital investments. They receive it in payroll tax.
It doesn't sound like a
tax.
fair share when the companies make $40 billion and the government receives $9 billion extra during a period of high crisis comparable to this one. In fact, this one is worse.
Well, this is a tax that comes on board as the investments of those companies are paid down. We don't take a risk in those. We don't take a risk stake in those projects. Other countries that we're being compared to do. You'll start to see taxes increase as those project costs are paid down, and these higher taxes for gas will see those tax rates increase very rapidly. This has been examined at length by Treasury, by government departments, and over successive governments. I feel confident that we have found the right balance of attracting investment to this country, because right now the new investments are going to Alaska, Louisiana, to Canada, even Argentina is turning up the enthusiasm for investment. This is how we continue to remain prosperous and profitable, and we don't change the goalposts after somebody's invested billions of dollars. This is an important relationship with trading partners like Japan and South Korea. I think this is a good deal. Australians, but it's not easily explained in a TikTok.
It's not easily explained, but I appreciate you coming in to explain your view of it. Susan McDonald, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thanks, Sarah.